Don't get me wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, Memology created an interesting video.
We have to get the criminals out of our country. We have to get people that were taken out of mental institutions and put them back into their mental institution, no matter what country it is. Do you know that Venezuela, their prisons are at the lowest point in terms of emptiness that they've ever been? They're taking their people out of those prisons by the thousands, and they're drunk. And just to get back, because I know exactly what you're getting at. Number one, we're doing criminals, and we're going to do them really rapidly. We're getting the worst gang probably with MS-13, and the Venezuelan gangs are the worst in the world. They're vicious, violent people. And you see what they've done in Colorado and other places. They're taking over, literally taking over apartment complexes and doing it with impunity. They don't care. They couldn't, they just are, they're in the real estate business.
You know, the local police say that is not the case in Colorado.
Oh, it's totally the case. I mean, I have it on
you don't
tape.
believe the local police?
I play it. I used to play it at my rallies every single night. No, they're breaking into doors. They're taking over the building.
But sir, you
and by the way,
raised
the
point.
police are afraid to do anything.
And before you think I'm biased, I asked ChatGPT, officially a kind of left-leaning robot, to say, hey, do you have any information on the Venezuelan gangs? I got AP talking about it, recent news. I got New York Post talking about it, recent news. So I asked ChatGPT, do you have any info from CNN or ABC addressing this situation? And ChatGPT responded, I couldn't locate recent articles from CNN or ABC specifically addressing Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment complex. However, other reputable sources have been reported on this issue. So now that you know that I'm not biased, we will continue with the video.
Okay, Aurora, Colorado now. This is a live look now. The sun is up there in that state, and police have now detained 14 people and reported armed home invasion. That's the same apartment complex where a lot of people were complaining about the armed Venezuelan gang members roaming the halls. Reports indicate that investigators said that several suspects entered the apartment and had two people inside. The suspects then reportedly moved the victims to another apartment complex, or rather another unit on the property where police said they were found threatened and bound.
I guess you wonder where I've been.
I'm not saying I'm right again. I'm just saying I'm detecting a pattern of people doing things that might be possible, and also a pattern of people trying to tell me it's not possible and not covering it at the same time. And you can say I'm not there. The police supposedly said nothing is happening. Well, I found stuff from the police saying something totally different in Aurora.
No, the local police say that is not the case in Colorado.
I guess you wonder where I've been.
It was a male and a female. They were accosted by approximately 13 to 15 armed individuals. They were pistol whipped, they were beat, they were mistreated. One of the male was actually stabbed, he had a stab wound. So does that fall in the category of torture for me? Yeah, it does. There is a high assumption that they may be affiliated with the TDA gang. I had a discussion with an individual from the White House, and that occurred back on September the 23rd, I believe. And that person basically told me that, hey, once these immigrants get across the border, that's all we really care about. And to me, that's a problem.
Wow, those are powerful words. That was the police chief in Aurora, Colorado, detailing a nightmare inside the walls of an apartment complex known to be home to members of that notorious Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua. More than a dozen suspects breaking into an apartment where they tied up, pistol whipped, and even stabbed two innocent victims. I can barely believe it as we say it.
If the person interviewing Trump is saying it's not happening and he's saying it's happening, I'm not sure who I have to believe. But then if you say the cops don't know anything about it and I see this video, I am more likely to believe they are sending prisoners. And that's a wild situation if that is the truth.
Okay, so I just found out something very interesting about the East Colfax Community Collective, that group that put on the migrant protest yesterday. The one that was trying to change the narrative and say that Tren de Aragua is not overrunning that apartment complex that everyone's at and that everyone's been reporting fake news. Yeah, that organization, I found out, is funded in large part by the city of Denver and the city of Aurora. Yes, the same city, the same government officials that have been trying to cover up this story and trying to downplay their migrant crisis. I found out that the organization yesterday that wrote out all of those signs in English for the migrants and told them, hey, if you don't want to get evicted, you have to talk about not Tren de Aragua being in the area, but instead these slumlords. Let's talk about that instead. That organization is funded by the city. Very interesting. Now, I'm also on the ground with Frontlines reporter Jonathan Cho. He went last night and he spoke to a different migrant who lives in this apartment complex that wasn't a part of that protest yesterday. And this man was so frantic trying to pack because he shares that migrants have been getting extorted, that he specifically has been getting extorted, and that, quote, Mexicans have been going door to door and asking people for money on top of the rent they're already paying. So Jonathan Cho is going to be coming out with that story from the same apartment complex. And I wanted to give you guys an update on yesterday's migrant protest and the organization that put it together. By the way, the leader of yesterday's protest is the same woman that wrote out those 13 demands for migrants, saying, migrants, stay living under this bridge, don't go to the shelters until the city meets your demands. I'll write them out for you. Those demands were they needed to be provided with culturally appropriate food, unlimited showers, a meeting with the mayor, free immigration lawyers. Yeah, that's this group.
Because I find it rather unique when certain people are escaping violence only to come to a new place where there's freedom and there is again the same violence they were trying to escape. And I don't find it very empathetic when certain people want to use that to be like, I'm very empathetic to these people, but don't report the crime because that's going to cause issues for the people I'm trying to help. I'm like, whoa, that's wild.
The poll was wrong. Many of the polls are wrong. They've been wrong for many cycles, but it's not like this is the only thing that has been said in the news from either side that is not true.
I hate to say it, but Scott is actually right about this one. I hate to say it because Scott and I very rarely agree on anything. He's right. He's right. He's right about this in the fact that sloppy journalism, sloppy polling, and what they did. Look, I was the recipient of more than 100 lies. And I understand what Trump is doing in terms of changing the way defamation cases are brought in this country. You may remember the allegations. I was in Prague, never been to Prague. I was in Czechoslovakia. I paid $10 million to Kompromat. I have a house next to Putin in Sochi. None of this is true. On top of that, there was another one that came out as an example where I allegedly was paid $400,000 by Poroshenko to create a meeting between him and Donald Trump during the presidency. That is also not true.
So do you think it should be easier? You believe it should be easier?
No, I think that media has to do their job. They have to actually, they need to get the facts right.
But wait a second.
We were right. And that's always wrong.
I would say this, if you're an asylum seeker and you wanted to escape a life of crime in your own country, so you left to a new country only to find out the border is freaking open and the people that you try to escape can't go to the place where you're staying and now they're asking you for rent too, you're gonna wonder why the heck did I try to escape? Because when I watch the news, they're just saying it ain't happening. That is a very horrible nightmare.
Don't get me wrong, makosa kita bong. Put the fire na mi blonde kush hash purple skunk criollo colombici jam jam. Dur loqueta verdeta welcome.